Hi, I'm DeAndrade. I'm from Boston, Massachusetts, and I graduated from MIT Sloan in May of 2019, just before the pandemic. We got very lucky. I work for a company called Arteris Impact Investors, and we are a private and impact investing shop. We have 6 funds currently on our platform across private debt and private equity. So meaning we lend debt to low middle market companies that need it. And we also invest equity into those same companies. And my job there, I'm on the deal team, but we are still in rapidly scale mode. So work on deals, sourcing, structuring, due diligence, execution, portfolio management of companies that we have, fundraising, internal operations, you name it. As a little bit of background, I worked at a traditional investment company. So what I really liked about the company was that we got to do investing. And what I liked about investing is I like competition. So what energizes me, growing up, I've always played sports, and like most kids had a dream of playing professional sports. And then when that fizzled out, investing had that same buyer, seller, winner, loser type of mentality that energized me. That got me through the first 5 years of working at Old Mutual Asset Management, where I got a lot of good professional and investing knowledge. But I hit a point at the end of the day where I'm like, what am I really doing here? It's interesting. You're picking stocks, and that's great. But for me personally, you're just making a lot of rich people richer and making money for people that typically already have a lot of it. So what I wanted to do was take the skills that I had spent a lot of time developing through the CFA program and wanted to kind of round out my skill set beyond technicals and into more of soft skills and gain access to some of the brightest minds through MIT, and got into impact investing. So I first heard about impact investing when ESG kind of came up and was still in, I would say it's infancy. And I was on the ESG committee at my company, but ESG for my company just meant overweighting factors. So it's saying you're going to invest $1 million into a whole portfolio, and you can look at all these different factors of value or growth or momentum. You can also look at environmental, social, and governance, and you can kind of overweight those factors to put a little bit more money in or a little bit less money in to those businesses. And for me, that impact was just not tangible enough. And I wanted to get on the private side and actually be able to impact decisions that were being made and have more kind of tangible impact. Big picture, I just wanted to do something that I was proud of and use my skill set where I could look back on my career and say, wow, I'm really happy that I did that and that made that transition. So yeah, I think it was just thinking bigger picture, being at a point where I had built a network and a group of people that could help me potentially get into a school like MIT, and wanting to pivot to start to use my skills for good, something that I could be proud of. So what I always say to people with this is just talk to as many people as you can. That's the amazing thing about MIT is it's a co-opetition. Everyone's going to compete with you, but everyone's really willing to help you. And you have this unique opportunity for a really short period of time with access to all these other people who are just as incentivized to talk to you as you are to them. So for me, wearing my story on my sleeve was really important. And it was just something that I cared about too. So having that mentality on a daily basis when you walk into E62 or log into your Zoom line to this day and age, and just be interested in what other people have to say and just ask good questions. And you never know when that person will know a person at the company that you're looking to go to, or will open your eyes to a company that you didn't know exist, even though you had done all your research. That's the outlook that I have. But in terms of what I used, MI3, so student clubs, I think is important. So impact investing initiative, that kind of formalizes what I just said, beyond just conversations in E62 and more into more structured kind of people that are passionate about the same thing you're passionate about. You get a lot of good speakers coming in, and you can get exposure to them and potentially jobs through seeing them speak and talking to them. Sustainability initiative does a lot of great stuff. So I would definitely do that. I would also say that when you have a group of like-minded people that are interested in making a positive difference, where you're going to have most people in your class care about that, do what you want to do. So I launched a student-run fund at MIT, and it's not under MIT, the MIT umbrella. Technically, it's a third party, but it makes seed stage investments in impact companies that come out of the MIT universe. So if you identify an opportunity that doesn't yet exist, go make it. The one thing I'd quickly say too on that, one of my experiences through launching that fund was to go to the different parts of MIT to understand the different investment sourcing opportunities that might have existed. And my takeaway from that experience was that it is crazy how many programs exist at the Institute that you would never hear about if you just stayed at the business school. So just getting an understanding of all of the different stuff out there, and doing your best to put yourself out there and maybe find something that really interests you. I started this at my previous job, and if you still have a good network at your previous job, you should still do this. But I started it by just, like I said, you kind of wear it on your sleeve. Here's what I'm interested in. I knew I wanted to be in Boston. I knew I wanted to do impact investing. I knew I wanted to do it on the private side because I wanted tangible impact and not just factor weighting. So I guess before you have these conversations, the important thing to do from my perspective is think introspectively about what it is you really want and try to narrow it down. So when you have those conversations, you can have a relatively targeted conversation. So if you can narrow down where you want to be, a few different cities maybe, what industry or sub-industry specifically interests you, then it can target the conversations and people can be a lot more helpful. So that's step one. That's what I did, and I got a really targeted idea of what I wanted to do. Had conversations with all sorts of people in my network, people that I used to work with, asked them, hey, what companies do you know that do this? Supplemented that with LinkedIn searches, and even do Google for like top impact investing firms, US, things like that. PitchBook, which you have access to at MIT. When I would identify specific companies, so through those initial conversations, you kind of build out the mosaic of all the different stuff you can potentially do. And you can lay out all the companies that interest you based on where it is, what they do, what you like, what you don't like about them. And then you can be really targeted and find who the contacts are at those companies and try to get a warm intro to the people at those companies. And that's how I got my internship. Then this next company, Arcturus, the managing partner, happens to be an investor in the Bain Capital Double Impact Fund. So when he saw that I worked there, it was kind of a shoo-in at that point. Because I spent all of the time defining what I wanted to do, getting really specific about it, like thinking introspectively, talking to people I trust, really challenging my assumptions, talking about it all the time to different people, participating in different programs. Eventually you get that one introduction with the one person that's willing to help you, and kind of takes off from there. So it's one of my biggest takeaways is how powerful networking can be. It's a self-driven exercise. So it's beyond just getting a job. Figure out what you want to do, what means a lot to you. And sometimes that's what do you not want to do, and exploring like all these other things and just checking them off the list until you find something that you do like, and talk to other people about what they do and what they like about it. And you'll learn about stuff that you might not have ever heard of. So always take the meetings, always get out there. You can create your own kind of pipeline from there. So as you have these conversations, then organize it and go on LinkedIn and see what connections you have on LinkedIn to these people, and then reach out to those connections and say, hey, can I have a warm introduction? Never reach out cold if you don't have to. And the majority of the time people will be willing to help you. Sometimes they won't, then oh well, then reach out cold. And the other last point I would make about networking is, last question should always be, who else do you know that might be able to help me in what I'm doing? And if you do that, then it's just going to exponentially increase, and you'll get 5 new names every conversation you have. and that it's really only a matter of time until you end up meeting that person who works at that company that you want to work for, or who knows someone at that company that you want to work for. Nobody's going to do this for you. You have to spend a lot of time on it. It's a lot of effort, but I think it's the best way to get to do what you want to do. And then when you look back on the career that you currently have, you have no doubts as to why you're doing what you're doing, because you didn't fall into it. There's no shame in asking for help. My view on networking had always been like, I don't want to rely on other people. I want to prove myself, and I want to get this job because I earned it, not because I knew someone that helped me get in. But I quickly changed that and just recognized it's not like, that's still me earning it. Me going out there and having those conversations and building the pipelines and targeting my conversations and following up and following up and following up. That is earning it. My first investing job was, my dad was a janitor, and one of the teachers in the school that he worked with, her husband worked at Wells Fargo, and he used to drive me in when I was in college, and I would just sit there and read the newspaper, but I got to put Wells Fargo on my resume, which helped me get State Street, and then Bright Sphere, and then Bain, and then now Arcturus. So no shame in having those conversations, and yeah, if it's what you're passionate about, wear it on your sleeve. You just kind of throw the bait out there, and if they don't take it, then just change the conversation. But if that's something you're passionate about, you're probably naturally going to be talking about it a lot anyways.